welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Is that typical for you as you're walking around the world? People are just yelling, "We love you, Chuck."
In Montreal, I got Le Charlie, my first French shout out. That felt fantastic.
They say you haven't arrived until they've shouted out to you in multiple languages. Maybe they don't say that. This latest book of yours, which comes out, I think, May 27th, I read it's your first book of short stories. Why? You've written a lot of books and a lot of stories. Why did you decide to go with this format for this book?
The honest answer? You want the honest answer?
Whichever is more interesting.
Patrick McGurl, The Program Era, about writing programs, MFA programs in America. And right now we are experiencing a renaissance, a golden age of short story collections, because right now they're rebuilding the syllabus of every writing program for the next 20 years. And everybody wants to be on that syllabus, and you teach with short stories. We know Dennis Johnson because of Jesus' Son, and we know Junot Diaz, not for the Pulitzer Prize-winning book, but
I've been calling him Juno the whole time, like an idiot.
Like a racist.
Yeah. Racist idiot. So what you're saying, Chuck Palahniuk, is that this book of short stories is just a naked attempt to work yourself into the sort of academic world and become the even bigger, an even bigger writing star than you already are. And you're a pretty big writing star.
Thank you. But when you say, you so qualify it, it's like you're a really big writing star. It's like you're really big in left-handed pizza throwing.
You don't think being a big star in writing is sufficient? You feel like that's kind of a backhanded compliment?
Yeah, because who reads? Nobody reads. I want to be big. I want to be a big star in gaming, in comics. I want to be a big star in TV. Writing is a dead language.
I hope whoever gave you, I assume, a large advance for this book isn't listening to the show right now.
Oh, you assume a lot. You assume all you want.
Actually, you know, I was curious because I have a review copy here of the book, and I thought that the letter that, first of all, you mailed these out yourself, which
proves just how enormous
my
advances
your operation
are.
is.
Yeah.
It was like from Chuck Palahniuk. And then you said, "Dear Luke, enclosed is an advanced copy of Make Something Up. It's still loaded with typos, but not illegible. I'll shut up now. Chuck." Is that the kind of brevity that you bring to most? Like if you write a letter to somebody, is it just like one sentence ended with, "I'll shut up now, Chuck"?
Oh, yeah. Come on. You know, the moment you open an email and you see that it's more than a couple lines, part of you dies. And you realize that somebody just had a lot of time on their hands and they could have said it in 2 sentences. But no.
What's the maximum length, according to famous left-handed pizza tosser, Chuck Palahniuk? What is the maximum length an email should be?
It should be 2 sentences. What do you want? You can skip the, "It's been so long, I really miss you." Just cut to right. "I want to send you my manuscript. I want a letter of recommendation for the mailer program." Just cut right to you once so I can say no.
But isn't that other stuff the lubrication that allows the machinery of this modern life to work?
Yeah, and sometimes that phallus is just too big. So, no means no.
I want to mention for our stations in the South, he said fallacy, which is why we're allowed to leave that in. It might have sounded different in the recording.
Fallacy. Goodness, you have a massive fallacy.
See, here we are, Chuck, talking, having a wonderful time.
Thick as a can of chili.
And yet, I think a lot of people think of you as possibly a dark guy because they've read your work, and it can be bracing, and it can be very honest, and it can be at times dark. What don't people get about the bright, sunny, dog-loving person you are? Did you mention that?
Did I mention I don't have gonorrhea?
Yeah. You didn't, but I'm glad we got that out of the way.
How many full-time employed novelists in this room can say that they have tested negative for gonorrhea in the last 2 weeks. Very few.
We'll do a survey on the way out, so don't worry.
That makes me so much more attractive, doesn't it? They laugh nervously.
Seriously though, you seem to be an outgoing, friendly guy, and yet you write about really dark stuff. How do you sort of reconcile these two things? Are you processing the stuff when you're writing it, and so that you don't have any left when you're just being your normal self?
I love you. You laugh at everything.
He's talking to a lady in the front row.
Who's actually looking at a video of cats on her phone. I'm sure
She's
that's
actually
really good
revising
too.
every email she sent this week, trying to cut it down to 2 sentences. We told them that they could tweet at the beginning of the show. This is no joke.
And sexed.
We did not say sext, for the record. Well, what do you want to talk about, Chuck?
Everything I want to talk about, I can't talk about because it's radio. All of my stories are kind of hyper-sexualized and excretory. Is that a word?
I believe so.
Because those are the stories that people bring to me. People are always bringing me the story they can't tell anybody else, including a priest. And they tell me these stories, and I find these fantastic common themes through these stories, so I repeat these stories at parties. And I developed them into greater and greater stories. You know, I was in Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and the publicist was telling me about friends of hers had bought a house, a modernist house with one of those fireplaces where you flip a switch and flames dance on gravel. But every winter, their house stunk to high heaven. And finally, the neighbor said, "Did they tell you they had a cat?" See, I don't even have to tell you the reveal on that one. I tell that story in Seattle, and somebody says, "Oh, I got a better one." One day they flipped that switch, and there was a huge scream, and something jumped out of the fireplace and set fire to every fabric thing they owned, and their house burned down. And that is how I write, is people tell me I have a journalism degree from the University of Oregon, which looks like a massive mistake for the first 20 years. But eventually that skill set starts to gel. You pay off your student loans? Me too, just barely.
Hold that thought, Chuck. We got to take a short break. This is Livewire Radio. We're talking to Chuck Palahniuk. Back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to Livewire Radio from PRI. I'm Luke Burbank, your host. We're talking to Chuck Palahniuk. His forthcoming book is Make Something Up, Stories You Can't Unread. I understand that David Fincher, the guy who directed the film version of Fight Club, is also working on a Fight Club musical that you're very excited about.
The monitor now says 4 minutes. Yeah, David, his 4 minutes. 24 minutes.
You just got 20 more minutes. This is good radio. This is the part of the show where we talk about a computer monitor nobody can see.
And we're both naked.
Tell me about this musical.
So David Fincher has been baiting me for years, and I thought it was just a joke, that he wanted to do a musical of Fight Club, because it takes so much to stage a Broadway musical that really only studios do it really well now, with Hairspray, with Legally Blonde. A studio stages the big, expensive thing. And David said, we can get Trent Reznor to do the score, you can do the book, I'll direct it. And just recently, this last summer, he optioned the stage rights, and Trent agreed to spend a year doing the score. And David started to consult with, Chuck taps his head, Julie Taymor. because Julie Taymor really knows how to kill actors.
Yeah.
And now David has this massive dream of creating a rock opera, because Tommy was the rock opera for my generation, and then The Wall was the rock opera for my generation. And we really haven't had a rock opera for a generation. So David's idea is that Fight Club can be that.
And you don't feel that that's diminishing the message or somehow, you know.
I am designing scratch and sniff bookmarks for the Fight Club sequel comic.
Let's talk about that. Fight Club 2, the comic.
Did Shakespeare ever have scratch and sniff? I don't think so. Hemingway? No. Not even Joyce Carol Oates has stooped so low. So don't you lecture me about prestige and literary heritage and legacy.
We would not dream of it, Chuck.
Did I mention that your fallacy is enormous?
That's going to be my new ringtone, by the way. I'm going to edit that out of the show and put it on my phone. Do you remember the exact place you were in and moment when the words, the first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club, came into your head?
1 minute just disappeared. I was...
Of my life.
Where was I? You want the real answer?
Absolutely.
Okay, damn. I was at work, where so many brilliant ideas happen at work. See, that journalism degree, it will pay off after lunch when you have nothing to do for 10 minutes.
But was at work for you at that time working on a ship?
On a ship?
What were you doing for your day job when you were writing Fight Club?
I want you to keep guessing. On a ship is pretty good.
I thought you were some kind of a diesel mechanic or something. I somehow
On a
assumed it was maritime related.
On a
Have you been
ship.
doctoring your Wikipedia
On
page,
a
Chuck?
Yeah. No, I worked for Freightliner, which is a good Portland company. Freightliner. That was pretty lame.
So when that came into your head and you're at work or you're on your break and you're writing this book that so far nobody's paying any money for, did you think, damn, that is a good line. That is going to launch 1,000 ships someday?
Yeah, that is a hook, No, I had no idea. It was a kind of a daydreaming thing. And the idea was to structure a story because I am first and foremost always about structure and context. Who is telling the story? And that dictates all of the transitions, the entire structure of the story. So the best place to get story, to study story, is to go to support groups where people are telling their story every week and they are so good at it. Or recovery groups where they're telling their story every week and they're so good at it. Or phone sex hotlines, which before the internet were a fantastic place because people had their story down pat. They knew exactly what they wanted and they knew how to tell that story. And so you go to these places where people tell the story and you study how good storytelling works. And that's all I do, is steal.
And it's working out great so far. Chuck Palahniuk, ladies and gentlemen.